Bamboo Bulife, Progressive Democratic Patriots, with Watson Duke.
Let's build a better Tobago. Let's build a better Tobago. Let's build a better Tobago. Let's build a better Tobago.
Progressive Democratic Patriots,
let's build a better Tobago.
With Watson Duke.
Let's build a better Tobago.
Child by child,
let's build a better Tobago.
Family by family,
let's build a better Tobago.
Building village by village, street by street, with all good people we meet. We care for the old and we care for the young. We caring for everyone.
Let's build a better Tobago. Let's build a better Tobago.
Come on,
let's build a better Tobago. Let's build a better Tobago.
It's now exactly 8 o'clock, and welcome, ladies.
Good morning, Brother B. Yeah, I want to hear this song.
Yeah,
I want to hear the music, Brother B. So I walk with me on music this morning.
All right. It's cool. But you know, I might.
Yes, Tobago. Yes, Trinidad and Tobago. I had to play my own DJ this morning. I am now here multitasking. Good morning. This is Dr. Faith from the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And I am so happy this morning. I am so very happy this morning that I am joined in studio with Dr. Melanie. We haven't heard your voice in a month.
I miss it so much. Thank you.
Okay, man. Yeah.
Oh God, it feels good to be back. But duty calls.
Yeah.
Duty calls, but it definitely does feel good to be back.
Exactly. And Dr. Melanie, she was out doing some studies, doing some testing.
Doing exams, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And fittingly so, since this week we're talking about education, right?
Exactly. So it shows.
Final exams, what?
This
telling
was bar admission to get admitted. So I did the uniform bar exam, which allows you to be admitted into a bunch of different U.S. jurisdictions.
Okay.
So it's a new exam, very intense, but it allows you to practice in a bunch of different places.
We didn't get the results yet, right?
We wouldn't get the results until about October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you get that, man. You're going to chop that, man. You mash up that, man. Yeah. All right.
So you see what we're having here is people who are well educated, able to use, as Watson was pointing out throughout the good morning, future Chief Secretary. I know you're probably listening. I know you're listening. Good morning. And as he was saying for the entire week, really when we talk about education, you talk about ensuring that people are able to survive within the environment within which they live, ensuring that they can do what they need to do to ensure that they can function every day in the environment that they live. Now, what we were talking about for the last day or two really dealt with our environment in the local setting. Now, I would like us to think about our educational system as it prepares us for the international world that we live in, which is a little bit different. Now, for example, and people continually say that Tobago is 20 years behind, 30 years behind, 100 years behind. But let's think about it. Let's look at it based on the industrial revolutions that we've had in the world, okay? So in 1780s or so, we had what was basically the first industrial revolution, where machinery became a big part of how you function. You no longer focus on the manual labor, but you were using machines to get all of your work done. Then in the 1870s or so, we started doing mass production. That is where the second wave, the second industrial era came in the 1870s or so. Then in the 1960s, 1970s, you got into what was the digital, digital industrial revolution. And today, Brother B, the world is moving towards what is known as extreme automation and data mining and so forth, where that is the new wave. Now, there are questions about whether there's really a digital versus an extreme automation and whether we're still within the third industrial thing that's happening or not. But let's think about it. If you look at Tobago and how Tobago functions right now, you have to ask yourself whether we actually went through the machinery industrial revolution, and I'm not sure that the answer to that is yes. You have to ask yourself, did we go through the mass production industrial revolution? And the answer is still no. And definitely when you go to anywhere and you still have to pull out paper records for everything. I was just
thinking about that this morning, Sister Faye.
Then we obviously have not gone through the digital industrial. We have not. So, and this started in the 70s, 1780, 1790 and so forth. And we are now in 2016. And like we haven't started yet.
Ask ourselves, where are we at this point, right?
Exactly. Where are we? What are we doing? Where have we gotten to? You know,
where are we?
We are still back then.
We haven't started as yet.
Exactly, yeah, we haven't started. That's a good way to put it. We have not started as yet.
And we're not educating our people to even get started.
And that's the point. Because what we've been doing, unfortunately, is looking at all of the other countries, and we're not necessarily talking about rich countries, because if you look at India and those places where the digital drive, I mean, anytime you have a computer issue and you call any of those big computer people, you are calling India or you are calling a Chinese person, or that is who you're talking. So we're not just talking about people who are classified as first world countries. These are countries all over the world at every stage that have gotten to the point where they are a part of some industrial revolution, and we are yet to start. Here in Tobago, all we are able to do is to probably purchase a little bit of what they create. That is all we do.
Back out there.
And because of that, we are using whatever foreign money we have. We are not gaining it anyway. All we are doing is spending it because we just have to buy what they are producing. That is all we are doing. And what we are saying is we really, really need to sit back and think Tobago. How is our educational system affecting us? Is our educational system in line with creating people, creating a workforce, creating individuals who are able to be a part of any of these revolutions? And we can't even think about this fourth revolution that's happening now, because that has to do with really, really huge mining of data and so forth. For you to mine data, for you to analyze data, you first need to collect the data.
And we don't even do that.
And we don't do that.
Right. But I mean, recently, again, and you know, I think I mentioned it to you, but Dr. Roberts, we collected some data and we boast about it. And this is not a true, but I just want your response on it. And the data was that we collected $50 million with the last cruise ship season. That is data.
Data is supposed to be verifiable.
Okay.
It's supposed to be reliable, and it's supposed to be generally applied. We have no idea where that data came from.
Okay, all right. I thought it was I asked the question, you know.
Untrue.
But you know, brother B, you know,
that is propaganda.
Somebody asked me the other day if they pull the ad yet. They're wondering if the ad still running.
I wonder. Let me, I don't want to list because I don't want to chew you all off of that. But as you mentioned, data. Now that would have been deemed data collecting. And
no. Let me rephrase that. What that is putting out information. Now let's start there. What is the difference between data and information? Information is just stuff that you know. It's out there. Right. Data is information that has been collected in a systematic process, meaning that there is a set standard, there is a set way. When we go out and we're asking questions, we're all asking the exact same question so that we know where we're getting the correct answer, and that when we're comparing, we're not comparing apples versus oranges as the Americans put it. So data collection is a very detailed, it's a process that takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of planning, and the execution of it is almost crucial, because you can plan, and then when you execute, because of how somebody, for example, we don't know, simple things like the way you ask a question can affect how somebody answers the question, and the sequence
and you may not get the right answer.
Exactly, and the sequence that you ask questions would affect the answers that you get, and these are all things that you study. These are all things that are part of an educational system. Exactly. Now going back to the being a part of our industrial revolution, we have to think, is our educational system the kind that is one that is creative, that allows our students to think, that allows our students to be innovative, that allows our students to go out there and not just look at what is in the book or what is written on the paper, but actually allows them to step back and to question. Step back and question. If you realize, now we're seeing it with that same ad. Let's use that same ad. As soon as I heard it, all of the things that I learned in school came back to me. Okay, where did those figures come from? Who were they asking? If we go and how did they measure it? If we go and ask the people who they say benefited from that 50 million, we should have a lot of really, really smiling taxi drivers and fishermen and everybody should be really, really happy. Are you seeing that? What process did they use? Now, this is not me saying because it is them doing it and we are the PDP, so we have to, you have to be opposition. No, this was me being a researcher saying, okay, how did we get to that? You were looking at it objectively. I was looking at it objectively. And asking the right question. Exactly. And that is what an educational system that causes you to think, causes you to be innovative, causes you to question. We actually had, and I'm sure Mel, you had it too, we actually had lecturers who would come into class, I know I had it, who would say things just to provoke your thought, and they would say something that they know is not true, expecting somebody to stand up and say, hey, sir, doesn't sound right. That ain't sound right. Wait, I think you were still dedicated to just that. Definitely, and I guess you did it too, where you had to conduct research projects, and I mean real live research projects over a year or over a semester, and you have to present your findings, and you have to stand in front of a panel of statisticians who sit there and pick at everything that you have done, everything that you've researched, and actually, well, where did you get this data from? And you have to explain yourself. Exactly. But unfortunately, and it goes back to even at the younger ages, where we now have an educational system that just basically says, you sit down, shut up, and listen, and then at the end of the period you are tested, and then that test is really just you regurgitating what they told you, and there is no real interaction, there is no real interrogating of the information, there is no going out and saying, hey, go out and find this and then come back and let's talk about it. There is no sitting in the class and saying, okay, today we're talking about circles. Let me not say there is no. I see it, and I probably see it one place, in the preschools. Right. In the preschools, where they still sit and they still build things, and they still allow the children to touch and to have their imagination, and for that to be a part of the learning process. But it seems like as soon as we leave the preschool and go into the primary school and the secondary school, that is no longer a part of the educational system. So we have to wonder. We have to wonder what is going on, and whether we are educating people to really be educated, meaning to really be able to function in the world, in the environment that they live, or are we just educating people to say you have a degree? We're educating people to be drones for the THA. Well, I'll put it as it is. Drones for the THA, that's what we do. We educate you to an extent.
right? And then we put you in government office and we have you there. Don't question anything. Don't come up with anything different. Don't bring anything new. Don't try to refine a process. Just sit there and write something on a paper and file it away at the end.
Exactly.
That's what we have been doing. We've been stifling our own
So anytime you have not opposing view, but let me say you have used, well, let's say you have a brilliant idea.
Right.
You're not supposed to have that either.
You're not supposed to have that, brother.
Yes.
I worked for the Division of Tourism and it was a painful 6 months, and I'll tell you why. When I did my interview for tourism, my interview took the form of me. So before I even went to the interview, I sort of examined a few things, you know, and I came to the interviewer and I said, well, you know, I have these ideas for how we could refine this, how we could fix this, and how we could create this internal process to facilitate better communication. She was excited. That is the thing. Oh, yes, this is great. You know what? You, for sure, you're starting Monday. And it was great. Starting Monday, it was like, no, none of that. None of that. And it was very frustrating, brother. Everything was stifled. And this was simple things that an employee could just sit behind a desk and put together and implement, and you share with your work team, and it was stifled.
I understand.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the Tobago psyche, you know. That is the problem with the system. The system doesn't cater for thinkers. And when you're a thinker, you're an enemy. Because you're not within the armpit of their control. This is about control too, It's about, you know, me being in charge. And that system.
Exactly. Now, what you are talking about is flexibility. And flexibility in the UN basically just put out a study, put out a paper about the world and where the world is going, and identified some of the characteristics of the people of the countries that will succeed in in where the world is going. And one of the biggest things is flexibility. The country has to have a flexible system where the educational system is flexible, where the legal system is flexible, where the processes that are used within the public service or whatever, where all of that is flexible. All of that comes from learning within an environment where it was okay. It was okay to say, no, I disagree with that, and here is why I disagree with that, and go through the process without feeling like somebody is going to beat you over the head simply because you disagreed with what was said. Now, let's go to another part of it, and it's very related. We have a system here that, you know, you hear a lot of people saying that they went to school and they have these degrees, or they have the CXC subjects or the A levels or the degrees or whatever, and they can't find a job.
Employment.
They can't find employment. This one is a passionate piece of, this is close to my heart. Exactly. Now, it goes back to, again, how we were educated, how we went through that formal process. Because the point of that, and we heard it long ago, the point of that is to get a good government work. And not a good government work. And not for you to sit down and use that in any other format, but to get a good government work.
Let me give you an example of another ethnic group thinking. The Chinese, the Tobagonian Chinese who would have come from China, the father or the mother, raised the children, send them to school, they got their degree. Daddy is running I don't want to say restaurant, he's running a little shop by the side of the road. When they go to university and they come back, they don't go looking for work, you know.
Exactly.
They go right back in daddy's shop by the side of the road. By that time they come back from university, it's a 3-story building.
It's a 3-story building. It's a restaurant and multi-level.
And they manage and run their daddy's business.
And they apply what they learn.
Okay.
Exactly. And it goes back, applying what you learn. Now, one of the things that we want to differentiate a little bit is the fact that people use the word business people, a businessman or opening a business, and they use that to mean an entrepreneur. Now, those two words have two very different meanings, right? A business person is somebody who simply plies a trade. They are going out and they are buying and selling or providing a service that has already been around. Okay? An entrepreneur is somebody who is willing to do something new, to create a new service or to create a new product. And that creation of a new product, that takes a certain kind of thinking that we need to have engendered within our educational system. That, for example, something as simple as this. You may be a person who buys mangoes. And you are simply buying your mango for $5, you're bringing it and you're selling it for $10. You're including your transportation costs and whatnot, and you sell it for $10. You now have a profit. That is a businessman, which is fine. We need businessmen. But what we also need in the Tobago space is someone who would buy that mango for $5 and instead of just selling it back, curry it, red it, make a punch, make a puree or something. And instead of now selling it for $10, because you've now refined it, you could now sell it for $15, $20, $30, $40. So your profit margin is so much wider. But then it takes somebody who is willing to take the risk. And that is another thing when it comes to things.
I want to poke something in here. I have to leave in about 10 minutes. So
right.
At 9. But I want to poke something in here. Not only does it take someone who is willing to assume the risk and someone with that kind of mindset, but it also takes operating a system that allows them to assume that kind of risk. That system that kind of fosters that kind of entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly.
You have to think about the Tobago space. Let's say that I come up with this novel idea and I really... Tobago doesn't facilitate that. How do I know that if I fall or if I need some kind of assistance in any way, I'm going to
You're going to get it.
It's probably not going to happen. So we also have to look at the system. The
bigger system, exactly.
And what is put in place for young people to come and say, I have this idea and I want to do it.
I don't know if I should say this. There was a young man I met he's coming from Speyside. And he wants to make, I wonder if I should say that boy. He's a young entrepreneur. He really is a thinker. And he wants to create a different kind of sausage. Let me put it there. I don't want to describe it.
Okay.
And he wants to pursue it. And he said, brother B, as soon as I am done doing this. But he's struggling to get the support to have this particular type of sausage made in Tobago.
Right.
Exactly what you were talking to. How do we get the system to absorb the fella who don't want to go and sit down behind a desk and with his education and so on, but he wants to become the new
whatever sausage of Tobago,
down the road, and wherever else in the world. Very good point. So
now I would take it back to the educational part. So yes, we have the government part of it, yes, but we also have the educational part. We're having, for example, a university here, a university of Tobago for Tobago by Tobago with an innovation lab, exactly. And a university like that, he would be able to come in and probably test out the different ways of making the sausage. But we would also have some
university assistants,
exactly, because that is where the students come in. Listen to me, going to school, going to a university does not mean going and sit in the classroom, you know.
No, you're out in the lab.
You are out doing research. Now, I tell a lot of my students that when I went to school, the university that I went to is actually a research school. It is a research school. Their sole aim for being there is doing research. And by the way, you're getting a degree. The getting the degree part, the teacher part is really by the way. The teachers are there, you get your tenureship and so forth based on the research you bring to the school. And by the way, you need to spend a little bit of time teaching. That is how the school is created. And in a situation like that, you force now the teachers to continually have to think about what research do we have to do, what can we do. The students now have to think, because a big chunk of passing the class is actually going out doing research and being a part of these things. Now the sausage thing, a lab that deals with how do you make it, you know, what percentage of this, what percentage of that do you add in, how do you preserve it, how do you package it, how do you may have a business component of the school that that entire class would be to go out and do marketing or go out and do research, market research, to say, well, would people want this kind of sausage? So that young man can come in and say, okay, this is my idea, but I need help earlier.
Exactly. Now, how do we, you know, and the question about in the system that we have presently, it does not, according to what Dr.
It doesn't support that.
It
does not cater to
that.
Yes.
And that's painful.
It hinders it, yeah.
And we don't realize we only as strong as our weakest link. I keep saying this. When you keep one person down, you keep all of us down. We're not moving anywhere. Stagnant, brother B.
Exactly. You know, I am so glad that we really took the time this week to talk about education, because, you know, we normally talk about it in terms of not passing exams and that kind of thing. And that is really, and that is an important part, because by the way, Tobago is actually not doing as well as we should, considering the national scale and so forth when it comes to not passing exams and so on. But we also have to think about it in this wider sphere, because we are now part of this greater world that we need to ensure that we are part of the revolution. 3 revolutions have already passed us by.
We're neither competitive or marketable at this point.
Exactly. And you have to wonder why we are not developing, why we are not going anywhere,
but
why
nobody
we are
has the gall.
Nobody have the gall anymore. I will say something before I leave, and it's going to be a little controversial, but I will.
Deliberately so.
Saying it and then she
deliberately so.
Deliberately so, because sometimes we have to say what needs to be said, and we have to get people thinking if we're going to ever build a better Tobago. And I will say this, and it's a term that I tend to use a lot, and people get pretty upset about it.
Go ahead.
I say we have a brand of dunce politics in Tobago, and people don't like to hear that word, because they say, as an educated person, you feel you're rich. No one stops to think of what I mean by the term dunce politics. And what I mean is this. The people that we have there currently, the people that the leaders, if we could call them that we've seen over the years, they're in office and they're very comfortable. They're not accountable to people. And they deliberately try to keep the next generation down because they do not want to be challenged. And that is our problem right now. We're not putting things in place. We're not thinking, well, we might not have it in us, but let us prepare the next generation. Have them take over and take us forward. We're not thinking in terms of that. We're thinking, well, we don't have it and we don't see the importance of having a better education system. We don't see the importance of having a University of Tobago. We don't see the importance of research or helping out these young incoming innovators or entrepreneurs. We're not seeing the importance. We just cannot fathom it. The leaders there right now, they do not see, they legitimately do not see it, brother B, and we're not investing in that. So we spend money behind jazz and everybody gets dressed up and we have premium top shelf drinks and we say, well, it was great, it was a success. And we're not thinking, well, it goes beyond that. How do we educate our people? How do we prepare Tobago to compete in an ever-changing world? Right? And this is what the PDP have been thinking about. We sit on a daily basis, we have group chats and we say to ourselves, how do we prepare Tobago to compete on an international level? How do we prepare Tobago to compete on a Caribbean, on a regional level? How do we educate our people? And that is the way the conversation needs to move. You know, we have to say what needs to be said, and we have to do what needs to be done, and that's what the PDP is committed to, brother B, moving Tobago in the right direction.
Okay, all right, excellent.
So you're jumping out?
I'm jumping out. I have a meeting with Chief Admin at 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, see you. Thank you.
All right, well, you said all of that. Let me hope that the meeting go well and they're not petty in the thoughts to say that you
used it, brother. Used it. Boxing gloves on, everything.
Yeah, but you cannot stifle brilliance, and brilliant people will not take foolishness.
Exactly.
You can't educate me and call me dotish, because I am not. I have an idea, I have a head, I have a thought. Even a child have their own intelligence. They want an opportunity to be heard,
and we cannot just keep beating
you can't shut them down. Growth is life is a cycle, you know.
Making me want to stay.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Feet. All right, then. Take care. Well, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. So yes, brother B, this is something that is passionate to me, really, because I have been a part of university settings here, tertiary educational settings here, and I'm disappointed. Now, tomorrow we'll spend a little bit of time talking specifically about our vision, the Progressive Democratic Patriots vision for the University of Tobago specifically. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But let me just say that accreditation and those kinds of things are important parts of it, but we really need to think about this bigger. We really need to look at what is the master plan for Tobago. Where do we see ourselves in 2020, 2025, 2030?
Exactly.
Because really the people who we are educating now, we are really educating them to be productive citizens in 2030. So we need to figure out then, what do we need those people to do? Where do we see Tobago? And then now that we see where Tobago is going in 2030, we can now plan that, hey, these are the programs that we want within our educational system. These are the degrees that we are getting. These are the short courses that are moving forward. These are those things that we need. And because of that, we can now put things in place to ensure that our citizens here in Tobago are well prepared. Unfortunately, we have a setting right now where even when we need professionals in any field, whenever we need professionals in almost any field, we have to go outside of Tobago because our educational system here does not allow us to create the professionals that we need right here on the island. No. There is benefit to leaving the island and studying outside and so forth. There is benefit to that. But after we've sent our young people outside of Tobago, we need to have a space for them, an entire system for them, so that when they come back, they can practice what they have gained. They can practice what they have gained, and we don't have a system that then stifles them. Because what you're doing by having all of these people who now have these various degrees and so forth, by having all of those people who have those degrees, and when they come back, they are not using the degrees, they are not doing anything with them, or they are doing jobs that have really nothing to do with the degree or with the area that they have been trained. What you're doing is really discouraging others from going ahead and being educated, because you hear people then say, why go in and do that for? And all you already have 100 social workers and none of them are working, and all you already have all of these different things and none of them are working in their field. So what you are doing is actually discouraging people from getting a higher education, from being a professional within their craft, whatever that craft is. And then you want to say, well, why are they not coming? Why are they not taking up the opportunities? Because even after they take them up, they are not seeing a way to use it. And then again, that goes back to how we train them, because when you are training people, the idea is to not to train people to just take up a good government work, but they need to see a wider system where even if they are not employed within the government setting, they are employed, or they can create their own employment within the private setting. It is where we have to go. It is where we have to think. It is what we have to do. That is the direction we have to go, and we have to look at the entire educational system. We have to start from preschool, primary school, secondary school, all the way up to tertiary, to see when we are giving individuals this new knowledge, when we are giving them this new information in whatever field it may be, is it relevant to where the world is going, or are we just wasting time? And if it is relevant, are we training these young people in a way that allows them to feel comfortable taking risks when they're done? Because when you come out, you have to be able, you have to take risks. Exactly. You have to be able to jump out and jump into the deep end of the water. You have to be able to do that. Swim or float. Yeah, but you will get there. Something will happen. And we have to train people to understand that, or at least when people have that kind of thing within them, we should not beat it out of them. We should let them go ahead and explore those ideas, explore those thoughts. One of the things that you do at a university is have a think tank. That is where all of the minds come together, and you sit down and you say, hey, this is a problem, whatever the problem is. This is a problem, and you brainstorm on how to fix it. That is why you keep seeing all of these new inventions. I keep seeing all of these new inventions coming out of the rest of the world, and I have to think to myself, oh gosh, we're not doing nothing here. We don't even have a within our classroom settings, we don't even have the system that allows that kind of thinking, that allows that kind of building things and putting them together and breaking them down again to see, well, okay, let's create something new. This is an old problem, but let's think of a new way of doing it, because we are just laid back. And we unfortunately wait for the good government work, and then even if you have the education and you are in the good government work, you are not allowed to use that information. Because right now we have a whole heaping set of people in Tobago who are Tobagonians, who are trained in all of these different areas. For example, last week we spoke with Mr. Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin, who has his sports science, and we didn't even know that existed. And we're now wondering why all of our athletes are going to the Olympics and not doing anything, and why we don't have more Tobago athletes on the national team. And it's simply because we have people who are here who have degrees in sports science and know exactly how to train them, but we are not utilizing those people.
Look, there is some science behind Artabold and Bolt. Success. There is some science. One, and I'm sure the whole question of his diet,
exactly,
when he eats, how much he eats, and the other scientific approach to maintaining such an athlete for 12 years is 3 consecutive Olympics he has won a gold for.
Right.
So let's say that we employ the sports science, the scientist,
right, Mr. Benjamin, yes,
to mold and to make, if not a replica of the Bolt, the Lightning.
Exactly.
So take it from there.
Exactly. No, let's use another example.
Yeah.
I have been in gyms throughout Tobago, and it is an amazing time just before a bodybuilding competition. When you see the bodybuilders at the gym, when you see how they are training, when you see the different things that they eat, it is a science, and you see them eating one thing right through for a couple of days, and then they switch to something else, and then the day just before the competition they switch to something else, and then the day of the competition they eat the ice cream, and then the thing, and it's like, and you look at them, and I am amazed because they understand it. They have had experience with other people, so they understand the kind of food you're supposed to eat and the kind of exercises you should do leading up to when you peak, because they're talking about the fact that many of them complain about the fact that the abs come in the day after the competition. Exactly. So you have to ensure that everything is timed perfectly so that the abs come in the day of the competition and not the day after.
My man.
And these are the things that you need people
of the success of the athlete.
But you need people who are there continually studying these kinds of things to bring them forward and to ensure that those of us who are not studying it, that they are a part of the discussion so that we can all be successful in whatever area, whether it's sports, whether it's medicine, whether it's whatever area you're talking about. You need to have that kind of thinking that is continually forcing you to think and scratch it over, scratch it out, start over. And there's nothing wrong with scratching it out and starting over. And it's this kind of thinking that the Progressive Democratic Patriots, we are here and we are sitting and we are talking to people on the ground, getting a sense of what are some of the problems, what are some of the issues that you're coming up with, and saying, okay, let's think about it. And we intend to have, as we said, the University of Tobago, where we'll be really doing this kind of thinking on behalf of Tobagonians who really just want to go and do their thing, but they want other people to think about it or help them through that kind of process.
Excellent.
So
I know you normally will take calls at this time.
Well, I want to mention one other quick thing before we get to the calls. Another thing that is important for us here in Tobago, and it's something that we've come up across several times, is the fact that our educational system in Tobago and many of the other systems in Tobago do not really allow individuals who are differently abled to participate in the process. Right? We don't. Now, let me go back to a little bit of a thing. The United Nations a couple years ago created 3 classifications for disability, right? So the three are, the first one is impairment, meaning that you have a cut or something. Your body is not the way it was created to be. So there's a cut or something. The second level has to do with disability. So because you have a cut, you now cannot walk, or because your leg is broken, you cannot walk properly, or so forth. So you may be using a wheelchair or whatever it is. Now the third classification has to do with whether you're classified as handicapped or not. That third classification has really nothing to do with your disability, but it has to do with the society within which you live. Because you may have somebody who has issues with their leg and cannot walk, but there's nothing wrong with their brain. But if they cannot get to the classroom because there is no elevator or there is no ramp for them to get to the classroom, then they have now been handicapped because they cannot access the space for them to learn. And that is something we have to seriously think about here whenever we're doing any kind of infrastructural development and so forth. How do we ensure that individuals who may be disabled, that we do not make them handicapped? Because it is us, when we create the system that does not accommodate them, that makes them handicapped. And that is something we have to think about within our educational system. Now, it's relatively easy when you're talking about somebody who may have a physical disability, who may need crutches or a wheelchair and may just need a ramp or something like that. But you have to also consider there are other people who have other kinds of disabilities. And within our educational system, if we do not cater to those individuals, then they are lost. These are individuals who may have learning disabilities, who have mental issues, who may not be able to hear or may not be able to see. Now, those individuals, how do we take care of them within the educational system? How do we ensure that there is a school for the blind that is actually a school for the blind, and is not just teachers and children with visual disabilities and you just put them in a space that is certainly not conducive to them actually learning properly? How do we do that? We know, and we have examples of that in Tobago throughout, where most of our schools that deal with people with disabilities, when you go into the school and you look at the things that are there, when you look at the equipment, when you look at the space, it is really, really not conducive to the kind of learning that those people need. And we need to ensure, and believe me, the Progressive Democratic Patriots is going to be looking at all of those areas and ensuring that when we say we are developing Tobago, child by child, family by family, village by village, that we are taking into consideration all of those people to ensure that they are also being developed equally and that the educational system fits them as well and fits their needs.
Okay. All right. So at this point, we will, and Dr. Faith, I tell you, I am really, really impressed with your presentation there. So people, your calls are welcome. 6390791, 6310219, 6608373. And of course, education is the topic and has been for the entire week.
Yes.
Yes.
And we will continue with it for the week.
Yes. All right. So your calls are welcome. And of course, the PDP hour. Those of you who are out there, your thoughts are welcome. Let us hear from you. Meanwhile, we wait on the call, Dr. Faith.
Yes. So I would like to have folks call in and talk about whether they think that the educational system that we have now in Tobago, whether that is really preparing Tobagonians for 2030. And the world that will be existing in 2030, will we really, really be prepared, or will another industrial revolution just pass us by as the other three have passed us by? So tell me, do you think that we are really educating our children, educating our young people to be a part of the world's 2020, 2030? Or are we just wasting time? And what can we do? We have spoken about a couple of things. The Progressive Democratic Patriots is speaking about a couple of things. But are there other things that you would like us to also consider when we look at this educational system?
Okay. All right. So your calls are welcome, people. 6390791, 6310219, 6608373. I'm looking forward in 2030 to own my own flying car.
Okay. So do we have people here who are building cars that can fly?
No.
Do we have people here who are building cars at all?
Right. Well, before we get to the flight back.
Yeah. Just let's start.
Let's hear. Hello, good morning. What are you looking for in 2030? Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes.
Based on your education system in Tobago, it is very poor. And in order for you to get the level of education, the people mindset must first adapt to achieving that which is to come. Because at the end of the day, if them don't sit down or set themselves within to achieve or to better themselves, you could bring what education you want here. Once them not prepared for it within themselves, they are going to stay primitive.
Right.
So at the end of the day, we have to start with, we can't just emphasize on the younger generation, because the older ones looking on. And if they're not able to adapt to the system that is coming,
Right.
and you're just adjusting to the youth, we're leaving for the elders, because they're going to stay primitive.
And given what technology is, and the other day we spoke, Watson spoke about the first cell phone was a big clumsy,
big thing, yeah.
And that would be deemed, well, I don't want to say archaic, but old. He used a word just now. It would be one of those. It would be an archaic type, given the technology
that we have now.
Right. Well, look at the size of this now, and it will get smaller as time as technology increases.
Exactly.
All right, let's go, people. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Faith.
Good morning, Brother Landy. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good, man.
Dr. Faith, I mustn't vex with you when I talk to you.
How are we going to vex with you?
No. What you are saying, Dr. Petey, it will educate the younger generation. I agree. I love the talk. I love what you are saying. And I always love what you are saying. But my problem with these things, Dr. Pete, is the implement of these things.
Implementation. I hear you, Brother Landy.
I tired. Here, most of these things you're talking this morning, in my lifetime, I hear these things already from politicians and where they are. Then new politicians come now and coming up with these things and more now again. So for me to really, really believe this thing to my heart, if God spare my life, I have to see it implemented or start or something and happening.
Yes, Brother Landy, and for you to do that, what you need to first do, as Brother Watson does say, he come in and pick you up to vote so that you're going to be number one in your electoral area, because then and only then, because the others, they I don't even think that they've been saying it, because they've been so complacent and so forth that they're not even thinking about what we need in this new generation.
Right.
So it is giving the Progressive Democratic Patriots an opportunity to really stick to our word. And by the way, unfortunately, yesterday I went around and I was campaigning, and I was so upset that I had to use the word campaigning, because it means I am now officially a politician. And that word kind of...
You are a politician now?
I guess.
Embrace it.
I don't know.
Yes.
Because I am a technocrat by heart. I am a kind of person who goes out and you do the work.
Dr. Faith?
You do the work.
Dr. Faith, I will say that you are aspiring to be a politician, and I hope that is a very good politician. But I will say you are a politician. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'll go with that one.
How do you qualify that we could go down the road?
No, don't go down the road. Don't go down the road. I am aspiring, and with his help, I will be a politician, and I will be a very good politician.
Excellent. All right, Landy. Yeah, Landy.
What you are seeing that it have flying cars?
No, in the near future there will be cars that will fly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he said he want one.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. And trust, and you see the thing about, as you mentioned about the technology, that the revolutions that would have passed us.
Right.
The industrial relations, revolutions and so on.
Yes.
Now, the technology revolution that is passing us by, and there is not one individual in the Tobago space that can say he or she has invented
anything.
Right.
But the thing is though, and again it goes back to the kind of system that we are within. There are many people who are Tobagonians who are studying this kind of digital thing, who are actually there, and this is what they are doing, but then when they're done, they then go into a system that does not appreciate what they know.
Because this individual who I spoke about that wants to invent, or he would be the inventor of that particular type of sausage. That guy needs to be encouraged and supported.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we could just lose that. All right, people, 6390791, 6310219, 6608373. Your calls are welcome, and of course, we're dealing education.
Yes.
And for the entire week, the PDP has been dealing with education, and of course, we understand education is not only or is not just academic. Yeah, and
So, going back to the education part of it, now, some of the things that we can encourage, even today within the educational system that we have today, is having teachers work with students and have the students actually participate in entrepreneurial activities. Have the students actually meet someone who is a real businessman or who is a real entrepreneur, and have them walk through that process of how they got to where they are now. Because very frequently young people think that only those people can do it, because they've never actually seen examples closer to them that really look like them who are succeeding. Now, for example, when I do my life skills class and so forth, one of the things we do is very frequently we find people. I go out and I look for people who have invented something or who is marketing something differently, and say, okay, come in and talk to the students, so that the students have a sense of this is somebody from right here who will do that.
Yes.
And you see it opening the students' eyes all the time, because they may have seen the package, they may have seen the package, for example, in the grocery store, and never really read the fine print and realize, wait, that is made right here in Tobago, and this is the person right here who made it. So ask him, what does it take, what kind of machine that they use, where are they in their basement, do they have a big factory? Because that's another thing. We kind of feel that you need to have these huge factories and so forth to create these things. That is when you're doing the mass production. But in the interim, when you're just starting and so forth, a lot of these things that can be created can be done in your kitchen or in your living room or in your little workshop somewhere. It does not have to be in some huge place that we know that we don't have access to right now.
Excellent. I met a young lady who said, Brother B, I am an entrepreneur and I make ice cream. And I don't want to give away too much, because they are supposed to, it's a young entrepreneur.
Right.
But a young lady, and she makes ice cream, and she wants to market her ice cream.
Right.
And it's done in the home.
Exactly.
It's not a big, massive machinery and so on. But, and so when you speak to that, it means, therefore, the mindset that we were taught to have about getting the government work.
We need to get out of that.
We need to get out, because what we're doing, we're packing up the THE.
Exactly. And it's already packed.
It's already
65-70%. And let me think about this already. Let's think about this. If 65-70% are employed by the THE, and for some reason, and we're already seeing it happening, where the THE is not getting the money and not getting the amount of money that it should. If oil prices go absolutely down to zilch, that means that 70% of us will have no income. We cannot feed our families. And you have to think, is that a kind of economy that we want to have? Is that the kind of space that you want to live in? That, to me, that is the most frightening thing, to know that if the government does not give me my paycheck, that is it for 70% of Tobago. That, my dear, is really, really frightening. And we have to get out of that mindset. We have to get out of that mindset.
We have to get creative. We have to go back to the old Tobago. When I say that, the system, the cooperative system, which I always talk
right.
about. And that is what saved, in fact, that is what built Tobago.
Exactly.
And so we need to understand that. We need to revisit our history. The whole question of the bartering system that Dr. Roberts is
bringing back using the modern technology, because it's using Facebook, which is a very digital, modern kind of technology to do an old kind of system.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. All right, people, your calls are welcome. 639-0791, 631-0219, 660-8373. And of course, you're talking with Dr. Fit of the PDP. Yes. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
So you last night in an official capacity, boy.
Official capacity. Well, I all time there.
Yes.
If you know your history, you would know where I'm coming from. You wouldn't have to ask me where I'm coming from. The reference you was making to the Chinese and other people then, right?
Yes.
Is light in our cooperative movement here then.
Yes.
And this is why I'm opening by saying that if you know your history then,
yes, you're right.
Who teach the world then is we.
Right.
Understand? You have to, so because I hear about education then, right? And I'm talking about miseducation then. What is happening to us is miseducation.
Right.
And we need to educate ourselves about ourselves then. And this is where our problem lies. We know everything about everybody else, but we don't know anything about ourselves.
Excellent.
I'll finish there.
Well said. And you know, again, and I said this morning that we in Tobago never really relied on government for our survival.
Right, except up till now, very recently.
Because again, Dr. Fit, if we are pushing everybody down the academic route, you have 5 subjects, come, I'll work for you. You had a degree, come, you will work here. And you're really just there doing exactly that.
Nothing.
Or just going to work.
Exactly.
You are going to work today. What is work?
Exactly. When you could be using those same skills, building a business, building and working with somebody else, because you have your business or whatever, working with somebody who is doing the skills part of it and coming together and creating a massive, successful business, because you need all of those different kinds of people. You need all of those different kinds of people.
We spoke about productivity the other day, and
what is that?
No, the point what I'm making is that there are things in Tobago that we can export to the world from right here in Tobago.
Right.
But nobody has the gall to say, okay, let us use this product and market it and package it and export it.
Exactly.
And there's where, and out of that, there was a guy who something about chicken. Was it you? We're talking about some chicken. We use an analogy to some extent. Let's say this guy is a pumpkin farmer.
Right.
He is a pumpkin farmer. We're going by John for pumpkin. We're taking the pumpkin. So all John produces is pumpkin.
And massive volumes of pumpkin.
All the bearing, we're making pumpkin jam.
Exactly.
Everything about pumpkin. And we're exporting the pumpkin byproduct of pumpkin.
But you see, that goes back to mass production.
Right.
Which is one of the revolutions we never got to, because we still think that if you are a farmer, you have to be a small-scale kitchen farmer where you have your one pumpkin tree, your one pumpkin vine, your one pepper tree, your one this, your one that. But in fact, we know that cannot sustain you. That cannot be enough. That is not enough when you really, really ready to market and to push. Because the thing is, our products here are of high quality. Okay. And I know for a fact that when people start asking for our products here, they then say, yes, we want more, and then you have the farmers or you have the people who are producing saying, wait, is 1,000 bottles a week you wanted? I could only give you 100, and that is where the problem comes in. So you have somebody who is really, really thinking small scale, who has never really gotten the courage and taken the risk to say, okay, yeah, we need to start manufacturing 1,000 bottles a week because that is what the market needs.
Look, right there, I'm thinking about not tomato ketchup, but pumpkin ketchup.
Pumpkin ketchup.
Now, that might sound weird because it is beyond the imagination. In fact, you can't fathom it because you're accustomed to tomato ketchup.
Exactly.
Now, let me say I go on to, let's say, the one where I was going to get the sandwich, the sandwich place.
Subway.
And I see now they have shadow benny.
Right, the shadowberry sauce.
Shadowberry sauce.
Right.
Now, what's wrong with pumpkin sauce or pumpkin ketchup, as we call it?
Right. No, but look at them though. Are they even getting the shadowberry sauce from
here? No, the thing is, Lord, Now, Dr. Phil, just take this 2 seconds just to say this to you. Now, when people of like minds meet, or when there's it's because of you saying what you're saying, I am able now to bring out that which is in me long time, you know.
Exactly.
But it takes somebody to provoke that to come out.
Exactly.
And what you're doing there is to provoke those people who believe that they belong to the system of the THA to stay there with their talents and their abilities, holding on to a government work and afraid to take a risk.
Exactly. And we need them to come out.
For fear of losing.
We need them to come out. But again, it goes back to us saying that this is what we want Tobago to look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, so that they know that the risk is going to pay off. It may not be, and that's the thing with risk, that's the thing with business people. You don't really make a profit the first year, The first year you're just trying to get your foot in and break even and so on.
Sometimes
and then after a while, that is where it comes in. But if you know that in 20 years from now, or in 10 years from now, what we are planning to do is export certain volumes of what out the road, then you know that your little risk now is just a little risk, but your reward is going to come 10, 20 years down the road and you will be the master of it. But that has to do with us planning for Tobago, saying this is how we really see Tobago in a couple of years.
Did anybody ever thought about maybe 20 years ago that Shadow Benny, that piece of bush that growing behind your house, that would have been a source, that would have been a source in some food chain, international food chain?
International food chain. Exactly.
Imagine that.
Exactly.
So we really have an opportunity to, and you ask a very important question. Is the Shadow Benny coming from Tobago?
And I'm sure it is not.
Okay, all right.
But that is where the educational system is, because a lot of these food chains and so on will not buy from us because our foods have not met the international standards. And that is again marrying the educational system to work with the farmers, to work with these the people who produce these things, to ensure that they have that kind of certification, so that you could say, Subway, you have to buy from us because it is now at the park, because that was your only reason why you wasn't buying before.
All right, Dr. Faith, closing comments. That's it.
Yes. So, people, as the future chief sec said earlier in the week, Mr. Watson Duke said that education is real education is ensuring that individuals can survive, can be productive within the environment that they live. Yes, we are talking about Tobago's environment, but we also know that for Tobago's environment to sustain itself, we also need to be a part of this wider world. And we need to ensure that our educational system right here in Tobago works for Tobagonians, but it works to push Tobagonians so that we can be a part of the global network that is happening around us. 3 industrial revolutions passed us by. 3 of them passed us by, whoosh, and we didn't even know it passed us by. We now have the opportunity to be a part of the 4th one, or at least to try to catch up with a couple of the ones that have already gone by. The Progressive Democratic Patriots, we are here, we are on the ground, we are talking to people. We have a lot of people who are professionals in these areas. Now, Brother B, I know what I know, but I also know what I do not know. And many of these things are coming from professionals who this is their field, and they are just looking for an opportunity to use the information that is within their field. And they've been sending all of these messages and calls and texts and so forth. And the Progressive Democratic Patriots, we are here to change Tobago. We are here to be a part of the process that moves Tobago into the better light, into 2020, into 2030. And the Progressive Democratic Patriots, we are here, and we are here to build a better Tobago. And as we say, child by child, family by family, village by village. And Tobago, we are asking, right now we are begging you to give us the opportunity to do that.
Excellent. All right, we want to thank Dr. Faith and, of course, Dr. Roberts, who would have been in earlier, and, of course, the PDP for this past hour. Hey, this was brought to you courtesy of the PDP people. And, of course, tomorrow they will be back. What are you dealing with tomorrow?
No, we're talking about the University of Tobago specifically. So people, all of those people who really want to go to university right here and can't take on having to go to Trinidad and can't deal with the up and down and that kind of stuff, listening tomorrow, and definitely call us and let us know what you think could be in the faculties, because this is something that we're building.
Okay. All right. Okay, folks, so that will be the case tomorrow. With that, as I usually say, all you pay the poor people, then please all those caregivers who are not receiving their pay, all your form, in fact, all you can't do that because they are poor.
And the forestry people and them who not getting their pay. And oh gosh.
How many people not getting paid?
Somebody met me from forestry yesterday and she told me, you know what, it's only because she have a little shop while she's surviving.
My goodness.
Exactly.
And you see that goes right back to the Tobago that we knew.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
Yep.
So all right. So we hope that I think I'll have Mr. Finance Secretary come in. He's a cool guy. He could talk to him. I think I could have a conversation with him. He's not arrogant or anything like that. So anyway, with that, as I usually say, embrace the urgency of today, for tomorrow is a mystery. Better be saying so long. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
With all good people we meet, you and I, we care for the old and we care for the young. We're caring for everyone.
Yes, better look at Tobago. Come on. Yes, better look at Tobago. 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 PDP,
Progressive Democratic Patriots.
Bamboo Bulife, Progressive Democratic Patriots. With Watson, you. Yes, better look at Tobago. Yes, better look at Tobago. Yes, better look at Tobago. Yes, better look at Tobago.
Progressive Democratic Patriots.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
With Watson, you.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
Child by child.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
Family by family.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
Building village by village, street by street. With all good people we meet. We care for the old and we care for the young. We caring for everyone.
Yes, better look at Tobago. Yes, better look at Tobago. Come on. Yes, better look at Tobago.
PDP.
Look at Tobago.
Progressive Democratic Patriots.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
With Watson, you.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
Child by child.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
Family by family.
Yes, better look at Tobago.
Building village by village, street by street. With all good people we meet. You and I, we care for the old and we care for the young. We're caring for everyone.
Yes, better look at Tobago. Come on. Yes, better look at Tobago. 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 Yes, better look at Tobago.
PDP, Progressive Democratic Patriots.
Bamboo Bulife, Progressive Democratic Patriots.